Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking the video out today. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover here today. So before we dive into these topics, do me a favor, if you end up enjoying the video or finding it informative, be sure to leave it a like. Really helps the videos out more than you know. And if you are new here to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well. We're starting here with the announcement of some PS Plus premium games. They're apparently going to be adding multiple Ratchet and Clank games to celebrate the series' 20th anniversary. Coming from PlayStation Universe, it says developer Insomniac Games has announced that PS Plus Premium will be adding a bunch of new Ratchet and Clank games in celebration of the franchise's 20th anniversary this year. The games will arrive on November 15th, 2022. The full lineup comprises of a number of PS2 and PS3 entries in the much-loved platforming franchise, and will join an already solid lineup of Ratchet and Clank titles on Sony's service. So we're looking at getting Ratchet and Clank Going Commando, Up Your Arsenal, Deadlocked, and future Tools of Destruction. So there you go, a lot of different Ratchet and Clank games being added to PlayStation Plus Premium for November. So let me know if this is something that you're excited about, and let me know if it's something that maybe will get you to subscribe to PS Plus Premium. We're moving on to the next set of topics though, and these topics range from Kojima's Overdose game apparently being leaked. We have our first footage, to Kojima finally acknowledging the abandoned Blue Box situation, to Blue Box actually responding to Kojima, and then also Kojima talking about the different types of offers he's had to be acquired. So we're going to start here with Kojima's Overdose footage being leaked by, yep, you're reading that headline correctly. Reading from PlayStation Lifestyle, it says, footage purportedly from the long-rumored Kojima Overdose game has been leaked in a rather bizarre way. As spotted by the folks over at Exputer, the grainy footage appeared on Streamable and is apparently being filmed running on what appears to be a desktop screen from a mobile phone, which is further being filmed from yet another mobile phone by the leaker, who was casually sitting there naked as seen in the screen's reflection. Whoever's leaking this clearly wants to avoid legal action. The footage, which can be viewed on Exputer and Reset Era, follows yesterday's leak that saw screenshots from Kojima's Overdose project circulating online. In case the video is scrubbed by the time you get to this article, it shows a woman walking around a dilapidated building with a torch. She's running from some kind of unseen threat, and towards the end of the video, it looks like the character has become possessed with something. A game over screen appears, and that's about it. The woman in the footage is unmistakably Margaret Qualley, who also played a role in Death Stranding. However, the footage makes it clear that Overdose is not Death Stranding 2. So yeah, this was certainly a bizarre way to be seeing footage of this game for the first time, but at this point, to me it seems pretty clear that the Overdose game is the Microsoft Cloud project that Kojima's working on for Xbox, and I think that it's not too difficult to gather that when you look at the way this game is being presented, and even just kind of looking at some of the gameplay, it seems to kind of match something that you could imagine being playable on any device. And yeah, it's definitely something that I would like to see more of. I'm not going to make a judgment right now because this is really not the best way to be seeing this game for the first time. We don't even know if this is how they're going to present the game or how old this, gameplay is or this footage. But yeah, this just kind of came out of nowhere, and obviously the person who's leaking it just seems to not care, obviously. So let me know your thoughts on Overdose. Next up though, continuing to talk about Hideo Kojima, he recently did talk about Abandoned as well as Blue Box Game Studios, and he gave his thoughts on everything that happened and basically decided to acknowledge these theories and everything that's been going on. So what I'm going to do is just play the clip for you briefly here and let you hear it for yourself.
You must have heard about this, Hideo, at some point, right? When did you first hear about this supposed abandoned game?
いや、これね、最初わからなかったさ、
Well, this one I really didn't understand at first. Users just kept sending me pictures of this Hassan. They still send me collages and deep fake images, like 20 a day. It's really quite a nuisance.
迷惑というか
This has been going on for almost 2 years now. And well, Jeff, you remember when we did that Moby Dick thing? You were in on the whole thing, and that was pretty fun. But people should know that I wouldn't do the same thing twice. I've never spoken with Hassan. The game is yet to be released, right? I don't think there's much he could do or say at this point, but if he releases the game, then people might understand. So, maybe he should just hurry up and release it.
出したらいいんじゃないですかね収まると
It'll die down after that. Plus, I'm not involved with it in any way. I don't know who started this rumor, but this is the better type out of the two I mentioned earlier. I think this is fake news based off of users' wishes and hopes. So, Mr. Hassan, I'm sure things weren't easy, and as a creator, I think it's okay to dismiss it completely. But now that there's been a buzz and things have gone viral, you should take advantage of it. If you create something good and share it with everyone, they will learn the truth. I think maybe that's what you should do. Fake news is a bad thing, but now that we both gained attention from all of this, let's boost morale and create something good. Once they have made something, the users who play it will understand it's not Silent Hill, and I'm not involved, but they will still grow to love their game. I think there's a way to turn fake news around positively. I say this, but I've never met the guy.
So that's what Kojima had to say about Abandoned and Blue Box Game Studios and Hassan. And, you know, I think it's certainly interesting to finally hear Kojima's thoughts on this whole situation, because for a while there, it seemed like he was never going to comment on it. And I think a lot of people were hoping that he would at some point say something, because it's, you know, it was a pretty big deal when it happened, and it really kind of took the industry by storm in some ways. And there you go. That's what he had to say. So be sure to leave your thoughts on that. But continuing to talk about Blue Box very briefly here, they actually responded to what Kojima had to say. They took to Twitter after not tweeting anything since, I believe, April. And they say, "We want to thank Hideo Kojima for addressing the conspiracies openly. It has been a burden and not cool for both fans and developers. We hope everyone can close this for good. We are working hard on Abandoned, and we would like to thank you for all your patience." And so at this point, I think it's safe to say that we can finally close the book on this and move on. Kojima has made it crystal clear that he has nothing to do with this, and if anything, he just wants people to stop sending him pictures of Hassan, which, I mean, it's kind of funny, but at the same time, you can also understand how it probably gets incredibly annoying. Something else I do want to briefly mention here is at another point during the podcast, Kojima does explicitly let everybody know that he's never going to be making another Metal Gear Solid again, or a Silent Hill game, or anything like that. He's just working on new stuff and his own stuff going forward. So something else that I thought was worth pointing out here. And, you know, as for Abandoned and Blue Box Game Studios, I don't know. I don't know if there ever really is going to be a game or not. You know, obviously, if they do end up releasing something at some point, it's going to be impossible for me not to check it out. I'm going to be very curious to see, after all this stuff, what it may end up being. But, you know, it's been a while since we've seen or heard anything. And so, yeah, this is the situation. This is the latest. And again, I think we can just kind of close the book on this. But to finish off the topic of Hideo Kojima and Kojima Productions, he recently talked about getting offers from, you know, different entities to try to be acquired. And so this is exactly what he said. "Let me iterate that we are indies. We have no affiliations whatsoever, and we are not backed by anyone. And every day I'm approached by offers all over the world to buy our studio. Some of those offers are ridiculously high prices, but it's not that I want money. I want to make what I want to make. That's why I created this studio. So as long as I'm alive, I don't think I will ever accept those offers." And that's the exact quote from Hideo Kojima. And you have to wonder, you know, who has approached Kojima Productions, giving him ridiculously high prices and offers. I want to say Sony very likely did, but I could also imagine Microsoft being another entity that approached Kojima, and I'm sure others have as well. So there you go. He's making it pretty clear that they're not going to be acquired as long as Kojima is alive and in charge there. So I think maybe in the end that's for the best, because hey, as long as he's independent, he can continue to create games for everybody, and you know, I don't think anybody is necessarily opposed to that. Moving to the final topic, though, we're talking about Digital Foundry's analysis of God of War Ragnarok and how apparently Ragnarok on PS5 is essentially the equivalent of playing on maxed out PC settings, which is certainly interesting. So they say here that when you play God of War Ragnarok on the PS5, it features 4 unique graphics options, with 2 of these locked behind display capabilities. On a normal 60Hz display, players will have access to both a higher quality mode and a performance mode, but when paired with a 120Hz capable TV, you also gain access to a 40 FPS mode, quality mode that is, and an ultra high performance mode. Let's begin with the default performance mode. I believe this will become the most used mode in the game. Image quality is excellent and the frame rate target is 60 FPS. In comparison, the quality mode caps the frame rate at 30 FPS while improving the visuals. Quality mode renders at a full native 4K, while performance mode instead uses dynamic resolution scaling ranging between 1440p and up to 2160p. On average, pixel counts revealed that it spends most of its time around 1872p. What's new this time, however, is the inclusion of TAA with upsampling. This TAAU solution helps even lower pixel counts appear suitably 4K, and as a result, image quality is greatly increased over the prior game. The 2 modes look very, very close. If you look very closely, however, you may spot one of several key differences. Firstly, the 2 modes feature completely different LOD settings. Distant detail exhibits additional detail in the quality mode. The implementation is very smart, however, as you're unlikely to perceive any sort of difference without direct comparisons. It isn't as simple as culling objects from view. The entire scene is carefully adjusted based on the selected setting. Additional adjustments include fur, which is rendered at higher quality, as well as better shadows and better lighting in certain scenes of the game. They continue by saying, between the 2, I'd have to give the nod to the 60 FPS mode. The boost in the image quality in the quality mode doesn't make up for the lower level of performance, and visual quality is still comparable overall. The only real issue I could raise is the motion blur. The shutter speed isn't adjusted to match the higher frame rate options, so the higher you go, the less pronounced the effect becomes. Still, performance in the 60Hz mode is exceptionally solid. The 30 FPS mode delivers a stable 30 FPS, and it's completely locked with no visible stutters, and frame pacing is flawless. The 60 FPS performance mode, even in the most stressful scenes, I could find the frame rate never wavered from a locked 60. Now moving on to the 120Hz mode, the quality mode moves up to 40 FPS with an 1800p to 2160p dynamic resolution window. Variations in resolution are very difficult to see. The high frame rate mode, however, is limited to 1440p output, with temporal upscaling greatly enhancing its appearance. The 30 and 40 FPS quality modes both seem to mostly share the same level of detail, while the 60 FPS and high frame rate options share the same visual setup too. This basically means that we're looking at 2 unique modes in terms of visual quality, so with a capable display, there's no reason why you should not just go ahead and use the 120Hz mode. The 2 performance modes are the most interesting. If you have what seems to be equivalent visuals between the 2, what is the use case for each one, and what kind of performance will you actually get? The high frame rate mode basically removes the 60 FPS cap and bottoms out the resolution at 1440p, allowing the frame rate to reach for 120 frames per second. The reality, however, is that we're mostly looking at a performance between 80 to 90 frames per second in most scenarios. It can occasionally jump above and below this point, of course, but by and large, this is what you'll get during gameplay. Compared to 60 FPS, it's a significant jump, allowing more responsive and fluid gameplay. However, there's a catch. While you can enable this mode on any 120Hz capable display, if you cannot utilize VRR, I would strongly suggest sticking with 60 FPS instead due to judder. Of course, if you can use VRR, this quickly becomes my preferred graphical mode. It really shines at such a high frame rate, and it's unlikely we'd have access to this option if not for the fact that it's a cross-gen release. The 40 FPS mode is perhaps less interesting data-wise, but the news is still positive. Much like these 60 Hz quality and performance modes, the frame rate is locked. It sticks to 40 FPS and simply doesn't budge in my testing. This is a great option for those that prefer the quality mode visual setup, but need the slight boost in fluidity. So given this information, let me summarize what the best ways to play the game on PlayStation 5. If you have a modern high-end TV with 4K 120Hz support, I would suggest the high frame rate mode. It feels like the most responsive and you really lose very little in terms of overall image quality and detail. It looks fantastic. If you do not have such a TV, my suggestion is to stick with the 60 Hz performance mode instead. You get a perfectly stable frame rate and excellent visual quality. It's one of the most stable 60 FPS games I've seen on consoles. So there you go. That is Digital Foundry's breakdown, kind of summarized to talk about the different modes and them letting you know what to expect and what they also recommend. So at this point, I'm going to ask you guys to let me know down in the comments below, which mode are you going to be playing God of War Ragnarok on if you're playing on PS5. I'll definitely be interested to hear what you guys have to say, but that's going to do it for the video. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you did find it informative. Again, if you did, leave it a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.